Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory in for Stick with You. It's Friday, April 21st. This is Africa 54. Clashes intensify in Sudan's capital Khartoum as warring parties ignore appeals for an end-of-Ramadan ceasefire. And in our entertainment, a delightful performance by internationally renowned musician Bassekou Kouyate and his family band Ngoni Ba. All that and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin in Sudan, where the forces of two rival generals on Friday are fiercely fighting in Khartoum. The warring parties have ignored appeals for an end-of-Ramadan ceasefire. More than 400 people have been killed and over 3,500 more have been wounded since the fighting erupted nearly a week ago between forces loyal to Sudan's Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his deputy Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, the commander of the powerful paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, who is commonly known as Hameti. The soldiers and paramilitaries fought brutal street battles in densely populated residential areas of central and northern Khartoum, with most of the city's 5 million people sheltering at home without electricity, food or water. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken have had called separately for a ceasefire of at least 3 days to mark Eid. Army Chief al-Burhan spoke about Eid al-Fitr, the end of the holy fasting month of Ramadan, and the fighting in a video address.
Eid al-Fitr comes this year as our country is suffering from a deep wound that has left people killed and injured and displaced families and destroyed facilities and homes. The destruction and sounds of bullets have left no room for happiness, which our people all over our beloved country deserve. We are truly saddened by how events have unfolded, but hope will remain that we will overcome with our people this ordeal and will come out of it stronger and more united and cohesive as we will chant strongly, one army, one people.
Burhan and Dagalo fell out over a recent internationally brokered deal with democracy activists that was meant to incorporate the RSF into the Sudanese military and eventually lead to a civilian rule. Now, with the ceasefire failing to hold, thousands of residents are fleeing Khartoum. Many locals have been seen carrying their luggage to a bus station across the capital. People are suffering from frequent power outages and water shortages, while the supply of basic necessities like food and medicines are also being badly disrupted by the fighting.
As we can see from our roof, that the smoke is there showing, and the sounds of explosions and gunfire showing that the fighting has never stopped. This is the military headquarters where the smoke is there in the sky, and also we are hearing gunfire and explosions. All of this place is trapped between camps, military camps and RSF camps, so it's not safe for anyone to go out, to go on the top of roofs. So we are even cautious about doing this. We have people on ground telling us where is the shooting, so we make sure that we are in a safe position. This is the military headquarters and the airport where the smoke is there in the sky, and also most of the tensions are there a few kilometers from here. The situation is really bad, and there is no improvement in the situation, although there is an alleged news of a ceasefire, but the fighting has never stopped.
Reporter there explained to us what's happening in Khartoum. A World Health Organization spokesperson says the violence has forced 20 health facilities nationwide to halt operations. A dozen other hospitals are at risk of shutting down, threatening some 50,000 severely malnourished children in Sudan who are administered regular feeding by tubes to survive. Now, the holiday of Eid al-Fitr that follows the holy month of Ramadan has ushered in a day of prayers and joy for Muslims worldwide. The celebration in Sudan on Friday was marred by conflict. However, some Sudanese worshippers still attended prayers of Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of the fasting for Ramadan at Al-Hara al-Raba Mosque in Khartoum's twin city Omdurman. After the Ramadan month of fasting, Muslims traditionally mark Eid al-Fitr with feasts and family visits. Now, for more, we are now joined by a reporter in Khartoum, just to tell us a little more on what's happening there. That is Sir Ahmed Ibrahim. Welcome, good evening, and please start by telling us what has been happening throughout the day in Khartoum.
Good evening, Mr. Vincent and audience. The first day of the Eid, people in Khartoum are still terrifying and living in a very bad situation. Despite of that, that was declared between the two general fighting, and a lot of people left their houses and also left the Khartoum to near state, and the military clash is still ongoing. Army is taking the RSF, soldiers with tanks and heavy guns and airplanes, as well. RSF are defending themselves with guns and heavy guns and anti-aircraft, and a lot of civilian people died. Although they have declared
tell us.
People in Khartoum,
Okay,
they're
Ibrahim.
trying to live their life as normally, but seems like difficult.
Yeah, we kind of. Okay, thank you. And we're struggling a little bit with the line there in Khartoum, but can you, if you can hear me, if you can hear me,
try to pray their prayers.
Can you hear me?
Also, there are some people other neighborhoods.
Okay, looks like we're having a lot of trouble with that line. Ibrahim, if you can hear me, how has been the celebration itself? I mean, today is Eid. How has it been marked by people in Khartoum? Well, it looks like we have trouble there. I mean, there have been problems in Khartoum with electricity and connections. So that was a reporter, Sir Ahmed Ibrahim, but we hope we can join him next time. Well, back here, the Pentagon is positioning its military forces near Sudan to help evacuate U.S. Embassy personnel in Khartoum if needed. More now on U.S. activity concerning Sudan from VOA's senior diplomatic correspondent, Cindy Sain.
The World Health Organization says at least 330 people have been killed and about 3,200 others injured since fighting broke out Saturday between government forces and a paramilitary group in Sudan. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel said the U.S. condemns the violence in the strongest terms, and that Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been in contact with both sides and is calling on them to extend the ceasefire until at least Sunday.
We're engaging in this from all corners of the department and continue to have full accountability of our personnel. You saw the Pentagon put out a statement earlier today that through U.S. Africa Command, they are monitoring the situation closely as well and conducting prudent planning for various contingencies. And as they said, they are deploying additional capabilities nearby to the region should circumstances require it.
At the White House, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said U.S. Embassy staff members are sheltering in place, and no decision has been made yet on evacuation.
The focus right now is on urging both sides to stop this violence, to abide by a ceasefire, to allow humanitarian aid to get to people that need it. I mean, there's already shortages of food. There's concern over shortages of medicine and water. The situation is dire in Khartoum, and we continue to urge both sides now to stop this violence.
This call also came from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
I appeal for a ceasefire to take place for at least 3 days, marking the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, to allow civilians trapped in conflict zones to escape and to seek medical treatment, food, and other essential supplies.
There are estimates of up to 16,000 Americans in Sudan and about 70 U.S. Embassy staff members. The U.S. has some military forces stationed in the neighboring country of Djibouti, which experts say would likely be used for any evacuation operation. After hunkering down indoors since Saturday without electricity, many civilians in Khartoum and the surrounding areas are running out of water and the most basic supplies. With Khartoum's international airport shut down and its border with Chad closed, there are few good options for international aid workers and others to leave. One expert told VOA the Biden administration does not want a repeat of the hasty U.S. departure from Afghanistan.
Well, I think we can't sell short the comparison to Afghanistan, especially if we're contemplating the visuals of Americans leaving a besieged city when civilians are begging for their own lives, begging to be evacuated along with Americans and international staff. I think that's a terrible optic for the United States to be sending in Africa right now.
In Port Sudan, some civilians have fled the fighting on foot. Cindy Same, VOA News, the State Department.
Well, the holiday of Eid al-Fitr is being celebrated across Africa. To get some sense of how Muslim faithfuls in Somalia and the region are marking the day, I'm joined in the studio by VOA Somali executive producer Abdulaziz Osman. Abdulaziz, thanks a lot for joining me and welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much and Eid Mubarak.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, let's start just by kind of breaking it down. What is this day supposed to be, Eid al-Fitr?
Well, for Muslims like me, it's a joyful day. It's a day that we mark, this especially Eid al-Fitr, it marks the end of Ramadan. We have been fasting for 30 days, and now the Ramadan ends, and then we celebrate. And that's why Muslims across the world, especially in Somalia, we're celebrating today. And people just came out in large numbers in major cities in Somalia to actually celebrate and to wish themselves a happy Eid. And there were a lot of celebration across the region.
You know, many times when people think of Somalia, they're scared of, the security situation, al-Shabaab activities. Mm-hmm. Throughout the period of fasting up to till today, how has been the mood of the people in Somalia?
Well, the security-wise, of course, Somalia is still a very dangerous place on certain parts. But when you see the pictures that are coming out from Somalia, actually people were actually coming out in large numbers. They were attending prayers in stadiums in mass numbers. So there was no security. People actually celebrated Eid in peaceful. And Somali leaders, religious leaders, were actually attending these prayers with the thousands of worshippers.
Now, there's the other issue, of course, of food shortage across the region. There's been a lot of drought. So, how has this impacted the celebrations themselves, especially given that it's a time for people to feast and to have a good time?
It does actually impact. It had a lot of impact on families. Somali families were hit hard by the inflation, the rise in prices, also the drought. So you could see, of course, some families were actually able to buy new clothes for their children, but there are also unfortunate people, the IDPs, who could not actually afford to buy clothes for their kids. So for those people, I mean, it's a normal day. In a way, they were actually enjoying the feast and enjoying other people celebrating Eid. But for them, it was really hard and tough time. That's why the Somali president, other religious leaders, and other local authorities actually were telling people actually to help those who were unfortunate, like the IDPs. They say the poor needs to be fed, they have to be given some sort of assistance. So for them, it's a little bit tough because inflation and the drought as well.
Very quickly, what's the difference for you celebrating Eid here in the United States as opposed to being back in Somalia, for example, or in East Africa anyway?
Of course, I mean, when you are in Somalia or in a Muslim country, you feel different than when you are in the West. Now you can see I'm dressed today for the Eid. I celebrate all the time. I've been in America for the last 15 years. Actually, Eid was been an amazing for me, but I mean, I cannot compare orange with apple. But I mean, overall, my Eid is being great.
Yeah, because also there's a big Somali population in the United States.
In the United States, even though they are not in Virginia, but of course there are Muslim communities in Northern Virginia where I live. And Eid is really celebrated widely in this part of the region.
All right. Really appreciate that and wish you a great day here in East Africa. They're about to sleep now, but thank you very much. Well, that was Abdulaziz Osman, his VOA Somali executive producer. Now, many fishermen in Niger count on a popular lake to provide them with a living and the food on their tables, but both are at risk because of drought. Youssef Abdullahi has this report from Niamey, narrated by Salim Solomon.
Madarumfa Lake has been central to the lives of the people in this region for generations. The lake, with an area of about 800 hectares at a seasonal peak, is located 20 kilometers from the southern city of Maradi. Saudou Garba is a fisherman in Madarumfa.
The Madarumfa Lake is a blessing for us. It is water with history because it belongs to God.
The people here rely on the lake waters to support their livelihoods.
Various activities are being carried out of this lake, such as fishing, farming, grazing, and others.
Residents say that in recent years, however, Madarumfa Lake has been receding.
We call on the government of Niger to help us save this lake so that we can get enough food.
The impact has been particularly harsh on fishermen, who say catches have been smaller and harder to find than in years past. Officials say one possible solution is to dredge the small channels that feed the lake, but such work is expensive and difficult.
There are problems of sand and silt filling the water channels and harbors. The problems are beyond the capacity of our local government because dredging the lake requires a lot of money. So we're asking for help.
Residents believe preserving the lake will also generate tourism dollars. The area is home to landmarks of religious and cultural importance, including the tombs of the 99 saints, which draw Muslim pilgrims each year. For Yusuf Abdullahi in Niamey, Niger, Salim Solomon, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all of our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, world-renowned Ngoni player Bassekou Kouyate and his family band. In other news, United Kingdom Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab is resigning after an independent investigation into complaints that he bullied civil servants. Raab's announcement Friday came one day after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak received finding into 8 formal complaints that Raab, who is also Justice Secretary, had been abusive towards staff during a previous stint in that office and while serving as Foreign Secretary and Brexit Secretary. Descendants of victims of genocide in Namibia are gathering this weekend at a 3-day event on Shark Island, the site of an infamous concentration camp, to commemorate the killing of tens of thousands of people by German colonial settlers. A genocide memorial tombstone will be unveiled at that event. And the U.S. military says it has released a 52-year-old Algerian held at the Guantanamo Bay prison for 2 decades. The Pentagon says the man was transferred to Algeria after he was deemed no longer a threat to the national security of the United States. Now, during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan this year, a small town in Virginia with only a handful of Muslim residents offered its residents a rare opportunity to hear the adhan, or call to prayer. VOA's Saqib al-Islam has more from Occoquan, Virginia.
Allahu Akbar. A call to prayer from the loudspeakers of the only mosque in Occoquan, Virginia. But for this occasion, local residents joined dozens of Muslims from the neighboring towns and gathered to listen.
This is a really very historical azan in Virginia. This is the first time is outside of the mosque.
I think I felt really grateful that we had the ability to do this. I think it builds a nice sense of community.
American cities usually do not allow religious services to broadcast proclamations by loudspeaker.
It's really a blessing for us.
But local governments occasionally give special permission.
For you to be willing to do the azan outdoors.
The tradition started when the observance of the Ramadan, Passover and Good Friday overlapped, and the town mayor, Ernie Porta, asked the leaders of the mosque to perform azan, the Muslim call to prayer, publicly as an educational opportunity for the residents.
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله.
Thought it would be something good for people in the town of Occoquan to hear. I thought it would be a good cultural experience for them.
In this town of some 1,100 residents, twice during the month of Ramadan, adhan is recited on loudspeakers before Friday prayers.
I think it brings the community together and actually opens the eyes to people that there are other things besides what they know, and it allows them to, well, hopefully allows them to step outside their box.
A small Muslim congregation purchased this historic building, which was built in 1800s as a church, and converted it into Al-Hussein Mosque 2 years ago.
Our purpose is to tell the people that Islam is a very soft religion, and it's very, the people following this religion, they are very compassionate and cooperative with their relatives and with their neighbors.
Adhan was first legalized in the United States by the town of Hamtramck, Michigan in 2004. And since then, a few other cities and towns have followed suit. Saqib al-Islam, VOA News, Occoquan, Virginia.
Well, it's time now for entertainment report, and joining us now is Heather Maxwell. Hello, Heather.
Hi, Vincent. Hello, everyone. Last week, the world-renowned Ngoni player, Bassekou Kouyate, and his family band, Ngoni Ba, came to VOA for a live studio performance. They played a 30-minute set that ended with a lively question and answer session with our studio audience. Let's watch part of that performance, a song called Abe Sumaya, or Peace, and then I'll tell you a bit more about the band. All right, so that is Bassekou Kouyate and Ngoni Ba, the world's leading ambassador of Ngoni music. For more about this band, who is, by the way, a family, Bassekou and Ami are married, and the other members are their children, check out their whole performance on my YouTube channel, Music Time in Africa, or listen to it on this Sunday's radio show at voaafrica.com. And finally, if you happen to be in Mali between May 5th to the 7th, you can catch Bassekou's Music Festival. Vincent, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. And now be sure to watch Heather's entertainment reports every Friday here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.